My name is Andy Bernstein. and, and joining me today, as always, is my co-host and partner in crime, Willie Drinkwater. This is episode number 5 of the show, and this is a weekly look at the things that matter in the world of mental health, addiction, and general all-around good joy and chat. Willie, tell us who you are.
Willie Drinkwater. I've been in the field of addiction and mental health for over 30 years now, 32 years plus. I have a private practice where I work with people that have addiction and co-occurring disorders. In other words, addiction with other mental health issues. I'm also an educator for UMass Boston in the Addiction Counselor Education Program, where I teach a course on addiction and co-occurring disorders and a course on family and addiction.
And prior to that, you worked in the...
Prior to that, I was in the big world of radio. I was with WBCM, the Rock of Boston. I was a member of the Not Before Breakfast Big Mattress Players back in the 80s under Charles Lacradera, and my favorite person was Billy West, who worked on the crew too, the man of 1,000 voices. So learned a lot from Billy.
And so, as a clinician in the field.
Yes.
You have you are an expert. You've been doing this for what, 35 years?
33 and a half. Yeah. Like an album speed.
But who's counting, right?
But who's counting, right? Yeah.
So we do not have a guest today, but we have something even better for people today, which is a lot of comments on a lot of the different news is out there. So we're going to cover some of because there's a ton.
Yeah.
And it's every day. It seems like there's a ton of news. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's gotten to the point of overload on many, many people, many people. There's just so much going on between, the Olympic Games and doping and, when's Russia going to go into the Ukraine and, the prices of everything is going up, inflation. I mean, it's enough to drive you to come and see me.
Everything is closed too. That's the other thing I've noticed. You know what? I was out last night, and it's like went over to Rentham Village Premium Outlets, and they're closed. They used to be open till 9. They're now open to 7. Everything's closed. Stop and shop. CVS is even doing lunch breaks now. They close from 12:30 to 1:30 in my town. Yeah. I mean, the times are changing everywhere. I mean, even something, like the Melrose YMCA. I mean, it used to be they'd be open till 10 o'clock at night. Now they're only open to 9 during the week. And on Saturdays, they used to stay open till 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Now it's 2 p.m. It's like different hours and things are getting cut back. I mean, I was up in Maine a few weeks ago, and I was, going up to Kittery. I like to hit the trading post there, and I was like, why don't we go over to the Bass store? Because there was a huge Bass outlet store there. Big fisherman.
Well, no, I like my khaki shorts, and stuff. So, which I wear the year round anyway. But anyway, long story short, I go over and the Bass store is gone. I guess Bass is closing their stores and they're doing everything online now. So I was like, whoa.
I mean, it's a really interesting thing. And I don't even know where to, a lot of times I don't even know where to go anymore. The only place I'll go, there'll be days I don't even go anywhere. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but it's not the pandemic more so. It is the pandemic, but it's like, where do you go? It's a weird deal. I know you go through the same thing, don't you?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we have like a favorite restaurant or two that we go to, but, even that's been a while. It's just, I mean, to me, just to break away from everything. Thank God I have my dog Charlie and stuff, because, I can grab him and just go for a nice long walk and just try to block everything out.
Yeah, which is good. So we're going to talk about some stuff because, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of news out there. So we're going to cover some of it and kind of get Willie's take on stuff because he's pretty irreverent guy. Irreverent, that's a big word. Anyway, all right. So this came out, and this is something that we had actually talked about, sort of, kind of. But this comes to us from the CBS Boston.
Yeah.
mental health clinicians dropping out of workforce. And there's a new study that shows that there are fewer mental health providers at a time when people need them more. According to the Association for Behavioral Healthcare in Mass, conducted this survey at the height of the pandemic, and they said for every 10 clinicians entering the workforce, 13 are leaving. The number one reason clinicians reported leaving their job was salary.
Yeah.
As someone working in the field, I mean, that's going to be a challenge, don't you think?
There's always different levels of treatment and stuff too. I was teaching a class last night online, and just to show the students, the different levels of treatment. I actually showed them an upper scale program, that's post detox, and it's like you have to sign a contract for 30 days, and it's $2,400 a day. And it's like, that's the top end of the addiction field, and then, when it comes down to people new in the addiction and the mental health field, if you're working for a state funded program, you're not making enough to live on it. If it's 40 hours, most people are working two or three jobs just to try to make ends meet. So you put down trying to work 2 or 3 jobs because the money isn't that great. And then, you're getting all this secondary trauma from people that you're working with, and the transference, the counter transference, and then you're working 2 or 3 jobs. So you don't have the time for self-care. And yeah, I'm not surprised that people burn out, and I tell my students, yeah, exactly. But both my sons, as I've mentioned before, they're educators and stuff too. And it's like, teachers are paid, a salary, and, everyone says, well, yeah, but they get the summers off and this and that. But, a teacher's school day doesn't end, it doesn't end when the actual school day for the students ends. They're taking work home. They're doing papers, all hours of the night. It's not just a 7 a.m. to a 2:30 p.m. job. They have to. There's no way that they could complete the work if it was just 7 to 2:30.
And well, the flip side is I went to my physical therapist yesterday, and she was kind of telling me the insurance claims are really, the payouts, for physical therapy is lower and lower. Through the
that's
state.
even, yeah. That's even in my own field, if you're working with, I know so many therapists that, don't take mass health products. And the reason for that being, if a client doesn't show up to an appointment, you can't bill them if it's mass health. If it's a commercial insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield or Tufts, you can have a policy where, the first time you miss, if you don't give me, notice of some therapists want 24 hours notice. Other therapists want 48 hours, which is kind of really long. But anyway, the point being is that, if you get someone with Blue Cross Blue Shield that doesn't show up to an appointment, you can have a policy that says, okay, the first time you pay me 50% of what I would have gotten from Blue Cross. The second time you have to pay me 100%, but you can't do that with mass health, and mass health pays less than the commercials, the commercial products.
So I guess the moral to the story is if you're looking for a new profession or looking to, there's always room in the being a provider, right?
Yeah, I tell my students all the time, don't stop your education till you get a master's level license, because then at least you can do you can have a practice on the side. Even if you want to work full time for a program, you work a practice on the side. You can work a Saturday morning and see five people, say, and you can bring in an extra $500 to $600 just on a Saturday morning. Because yeah, go ahead.
No, let me ask you a quick question before we get on to the next topic. What do you think? We put so much money into mental health and all this, but if they're paying clinicians or providers more, or having more, or getting having an increase in the financial benefits, maybe it takes maybe that's the way to try to tackle mental health issues, by maintaining the number of clinicians through.
You're not going to get the really experienced qualified people master's level people to work with this for what the state is going to pay a case manager, and it's like, it's a shame too, because you figure like detox, when people go to detox, that's like the opening of treatment for somebody. And that oftentimes where you have the least experienced people, so why don't you pay to have some, master's level clinicians working at the entry level of addiction, with newbies too, so they can be showing them the ropes. But you usually find in the addiction field, when people get a master's, they either go private practice or they become administrators, so you don't get the real experienced people a lot of times, that are working, at the lowest levels in the field. You just don't.
Well, that's one of the challenges that hopefully that will improve, like teachers and firemen and police officers and EMTs that all are underpaid and deserve more. But, we do what we can. Not me, but yeah. All right, let's move on. Fox 25, Boston, investigated that more Massachusetts kids under 12 are experiencing mental health crises during the pandemic. And there's a lack of pediatric beds or psychiatric beds and services, forcing kids to board in hospital ERs.
Yeah.
Can tell me about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't work with the kids necessarily, but, it's quite common where you've got, kids that go to, an emergency room with a psychiatric emergency going on, and they might be in a gurney in that emergency room, 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days until they can get a placement.
Isn't that a shame, though, that kids actually have to go through that between pediatric cases of mental health? I mean, it wasn't always
where you are.
way.
Well, no, it pretty much has always been that way. But I think we're noticing it now because the numbers of the young people have grown so much.
Well, is this as a result of? I mean, what do you think that's the result of? I mean, you look at the young lady who was, a lot of these Olympians are speaking out, like Simone Biles, and now the young lady who doping.
Michaela Schifrin. Oh, okay, yeah.
Michaela Schifrin as well. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, and I know that the news was talking about, they kind of put us, or the broadcasters were kind of poking fun or discounting her, the mental health issues that she has from losing her father and stuff.
You're looking, in the case of the young Russian woman too, you're looking at a 15-year-old, that the state is putting all this pressure on her. And the state is behind anything that has to do with doping, and she's just trying to stand up as best she can. It's a lot of pressure.
Young kids who play sports are also getting get a lot of pressure as well. And so what's interesting is that with pediatric and now having cases. I mean, how much emergency rooms and hospitals they must be overloaded between the pandemic, overdoses, psychiatric. I mean,
when one of the things, it all depends on the hospital. Like Cambridge Hospital, for instance, they have a psych emergency room that's right next to their main emergency room. And I remember a few years ago, they were talking about closing their psych emergency room. And the people on Brattle Street were like, no, there's no way you're closing that. And they threw Cambridge Health Alliance $1 million to keep it open. So they saw the need. North Shore Medical Center, which was my last stop before the practice, I went into full time. North Shore Medical Center, we have a psych triage team that works with, that works out of the emergency room. So, but a lot of hospitals don't have that. They don't have a psych triage team that's part of their emergency room.
I mean, what are they hoping to get when they go to the emergency room? What are these? What's the treatment? Because obviously it's more of a reactive.
It is a reactive,
than a proactive. So how would they treat it? What do they do?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you get a lot of hospitals, if they don't have a psych triage team, they have an outside agency that comes in to do the evaluations, and then that outside agency calls around to all the psychiatric facilities to try to get a placement.
So if somebody actually has if somebody has a problem, there's
Yeah, I mean, if someone's a threat to themselves or others, then you get the hospital security that sits with them, or they get a sitter in, I mean, which isn't ideal because, security teams, a lot of times they're not really like, they don't get any training in mental health or addiction, or else they have their own, beliefs and biases to begin with,
Isn't it it's just a shame on so many levels, and the fact that kids have to even go to the emergency room.
Yeah. And there's more and more kids now because of, the pandemic. And then all of a sudden we've seen that, the younger the student as far as virtual learning, the less benefit they get out of it, and you're talking about kids that are used to being socially active with each other. And now, you're limiting that to just a screen, Right. I mean, it took a heavy toll on the younger people. It definitely has, the pandemic. Older people like myself, the research they've shown is that, we've been doing fairly well during the pandemic because, like, when you get up into my age bracket, up in the 60s and stuff, I like being home. I can always find something to do at home. I like going for walks and working on my yard, and kicking back.
It's a snow day. Every day is a snow day now.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I feel a lot better. Like, there's nobody on the street. It's just, it's a less hectic
stressful
environment.
Yeah. Less stressful and hectic. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel, it's a snow day. But anyway, and my wife is home, which is great. She works from.
Although you have to watch that phrase "snow day" because I was on the comedy scene, and a snow day on the comedy scene meant something entirely different. Entirely different when you said a snow day. Right. It's like, anyway, go ahead.
All right. Next topic, please.
Yes.
The other thing is food. Can state. So this came out also recently that food can influence the state of your microbiome. And I don't know what that is, and I'll let you tell us in a second. And
like I'm going to know about biology.
You know everything. You're the guru. You're the maven of mental health.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bible of what?
Yeah. Well, they say that some species of gut microbes have been linked to higher rates of depression. Yeah. So they're saying that this fella, Drew Ramsey, a psychiatrist and assistant professor at Columbia, said he has a book called Eat to Beat Depression and Anxiety. I never heard of the book, but I'm going to get it. But it says that our brains almost eat anything to survive, but there's a way to eat to improve mental health. So, so what do you think those are? Okay, one.
Well, he's talking about leafy greens. Leafy greens are important, right? I can tell that Ramsey must be from England too, because the article it's OUR favorite.
Well, he could be a Canadian. He could be Canadian.
He could be Canadian too. Yeah, true. True.
So they're saying kale.
Yep.
Spinach, collard greens, beet greens, chard. Arugula, fiber, folate, and vitamin C.
Yeah.
And A are important. I mean, everybody knows leafy greens are good, whether it's for mental health or not.
If you look down on that list, one of my favorites is down there under seafood. The first one, sardines. Sardines are considered a superfood.
If you can get past that, there's these row of dead little fishies in a can.
Sardines are absolutely, a super nutrient. I mean, they have everything in them. They have omega-3 fish oil, magnesium and, ion and calcium. I mean, they're loaded. And one of the things with sardines and anchovies too, is you never have to worry about mercury because they eat phytoplankton. There you go.
And you said you didn't know. You do know. Yeah,
I do know. Yeah, a little bit.
It's omega-3 fatty acids, and it has vitamin B12, selenium, iron, zinc, and protein.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the. When protein is an interesting concept too, because protein, like you get. when you eat beef, say, your body's only able to utilize like 50 to 60% of the protein that you ingest from beef. But when you get up into seafood, though, now you're up into the high 70s and 80% that your body can actually utilize from that protein source.
Well, if you're not into the fish, then you have chia seeds, flax seeds.
Yeah.
What is sea vegetables?
Yeah. What are what?
Sea vegetables.
Yes, sea kelp. Kelp is one, the sea vegetable.
The barnacles.
Barnacle build a sailor.
Barnacle builder. All right. And then the colorful. This is cool. The more colorful your plate, the better the food is for your brain. And they say that red peppers, blueberries, broccoli, and
Dutch peppers too. Dutch peppers, the yellow peppers.
Is that what they're called? Good. Dutch peppers?
That's what I've always called them. Yeah.
Where did you learn that? How'd you find that out?
Growing up in the New York area, that's what they call them. With Dutch peppers. Yeah.
They said they can affect inflammation, memory, sleep, and mood. Yeah. And then reddish purplish foods are power players in this category.
Yep.
And then avocados as well. So I find this interesting. Spices and herbs is another one that helps. And they add a pinch of black pepper.
Yeah.
Make 2,000% more bioavailable to our brain and body. And then dark chocolate. That's a good one.
I'm into dark chocolate. Pepper's an interesting thing. Like I haven't salted my food in 30 years plus, but I do like pepper. And you can get all different types of pepper. There's all different types of pepper that you can put on.
Yeah, like what?
There's like a Himalayan pepper. It all depends where the peppercorns are grown. You get different flavors.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Never heard of such. Where do you buy those? At a highfalutin store? Can you buy those at Shaw's or Stop and Shop?
You can probably get them, at Whole Foods where they take your whole check. But hey,
whole check. And then they say fermented foods, which is weird, but it's also help. I like yogurt, sauerkraut, kefir, fermented milk beverage, kombucha. So
kombucha is an interesting one. When I'm working with people that have addiction issues, I really, especially if it was an alcohol issue, I really try to keep them away from that because have you ever had it?
What, kombucha?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's got sort of a wine fermented taste to it.
It's coleslaw. It's Korean coleslaw.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's spicy too.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the children. The children. Our next topic is the great outdoors. If your child is creative, and again, this is around treating mental health. They say that art therapy is something really interesting and really trying to. Go ahead.
I'm an advocate for art therapy too. I love the people that come out of Leslie college with an art therapy degree, because a lot of times people can have a difficult time expressing themselves verbally, but you give them some medium, paint, pencil, pastels, and they can express themselves just fine.
Well, they're saying outdoor is the way to go, being outdoor. Now, I'm somebody who walks and runs in the dead of winter. I don't care. Like, I've learned to deal with it. It helps me. But they're saying outdoor. What is it about the outdoor, even in the winter? Do you think that that's something we need to go push ourselves to do?
I mean, fresh air, you're really oxygenating your brain. I mean, the last few days when the temperature was up, but my wife Yvette let the windows, had a few windows open a crack, and we have the two new kittens. They're about six months now. Well, they spent like half the day in the windows, watching the birds, and man, they crashed out and slept like I've never seen them sleep before. They were just loaded with, fresh air from the whole day, being in the windowsill even. So not even fully outdoors, but just, growing up as a kid, it was a lot different when I'm sure for yourself too. But, growing up, we we'd come home from school and we'd be outside in the neighborhood and we'd be playing foursquare and we'd be playing tag and we'd be running through the woods and we do pickup games of baseball. And, you really don't see that a lot anymore. Everything is over organized too now. Sports, you're going to go to a dynamic power skating class at 4:00 and then you got a game at 5:00 and then you're going to do some training after. It's like, a lot of times, sports for kids, the adults can take the fun out of it.
Absolutely. And, I thought I learned that for youth hockey, right, to outfit a kid to play youth hockey, how much do you think it costs on average? There's a number.
I'd say anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
$5,000.
Well, does that include paying for ice time though and stuff too? And
equipment, travel.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking the other day, I had mentioned to you how I had been a goalie in hockey for years and years. And I was thinking, maybe I'll grab a pair of goalie skates and start going to some open skating sessions. You know what the price of goalie skates are now? I was like blown away.
400.
Well, 400 is like a starting. That's for a used pair. Yeah, they're like
really
a good pair of goalie skates, and I mean you're talking $800. It's crazy.
So that puts more pressure on the kids.
Yeah.
So now they're also saying if your child is analytical, they're saying horticulture therapy uses gardening to improve well-being. And parents can try elements from this practice for their logical children. Planting a seed, watching it grow, helps develop mindfulness about change.
Yeah,
I think that's cool, right? Gardening, people use that as a
form of art. I mean, it's another form of art when you stop and think about it, really, Right.
You can't do that right now, but we're getting we're kind of getting close come June.
You can in a way. I have a daughter-in-law that, has like, she starts her garden in the house. She's got, the special lighting and trays, and she starts all of her seedlings. She has seedlings going the year round, and she's always growing, herbs and spices and the whole bit. And stuff indoors, and then she transplants it outside once the weather's nice.
So then the other one is if your child is athletic, and they're saying green exercise therapy, which is basically exercising outside while paying attention to your surroundings, can help people develop focus. Parents can challenge their kids to use all 5 senses when doing their favorite sports activity. And if there's a runner, avoid the headphones, hear how many birds they hear the boink of the ball against the racket if you're tennis, or, how the water feels. And I mean, that's pretty, what is that, like DBT stuff?
It's a lot of sensory stuff. Well, it's part of grounding techniques, which, it's part of CBT in a way, cognitive behavior therapy. And stuff, but it's a form of grounding too. When you're noticing everything around you, it pulls you out of your own head. When you're looking at the being present, totally present. Yeah.
Which is, and then they're talking about adventure therapy, outdoor activities from rock climbing, skiing, mountain biking. And when kids add mindfulness, it helps them slow down and appreciate their surroundings. And they talk about animals. Well, we know that there's a place up in Mass what's that?
Talking about everything we're talking about for the kids is also beneficial to adults. I mean, I knew years ago on the North Shore, there was a kickball league on the North Shore for adults where you just go out and you have a great time.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where sports, I think, is really lost away in a lot of it. It's like kids need college scholarships. There's a lot of financial pressures. There's, it's.
Well, then you get the parents that are trying to relive their childhood through their own son or daughter. And it's like, I didn't make a college hockey team, but they're going to make a college hockey. And it's like, what if they don't want to? Well, they're going to want it. It's like, okay.
Right. And so there's that. Next topic.
Animal.
Toxic masculinity. What is, what's that?
I read the title Macho Man, and I always think of Randy Savage.
I always think of the Village People, actually.
Oh, do you? Do you?
Yeah, and YMCA.
I think WWF before they became WWE. Macho Man. Randy Savage.
Macho Man. Well, toxic masculinity is defined by researchers as a set of behaviors and beliefs that include the following: suppressing emotions or masking distress, maintaining appearance of hardness and violence as an indicator of power.
Right.
And so the American Psychological Association sent out a guidelines for practice with men and boys in 2019 to show that traditional masculinity is psychologically harmful and causes damage that echoes both inwardly and outwardly. So
I think that's where Eastern thought and philosophy, in many ways, they've always thought of yin and yang, that you're not just masculine or you're not just feminine, and I think, here we've got, it's faded out quite a bit over the years, the old John Wayne, the mentality of, the tough guy and the cowboy, and, men don't talk about feelings. They pick themselves up by the bootstraps and, well, I think it is evolving. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, they're saying that 10 to 17% of men will develop major depression in their lives, with 6 million suffering from depression each year. And the men are 4 times as many men as women die by suicide. And it's, and interestingly, and you could talk about this, even though you're not over 85, the highest suicide rates are being found in white men over 85.
Yeah. To go right down to the base of it and stuff too, all the research you read over the years and stuff. Well, more women than men suffer from depression. I've been in the field, as you know, for more than 30 years. And it's like, I don't believe that for a second. I think it's a case of more women than men report depression. Men have a hard time, men don't get depressed. I usually know I'm dealing with a man that's probably depressed. I'll ask them, "Are you depressed?" And they'll go, "No, I'm just bored." It comes out as bored.
How so? Oh, I know.
They don't acknowledge depression. They'll just say they're bored, and then you'll say, they'll say there's nothing to do, and it's like, well, you mean, well, there's a lot to do, but I just don't feel like doing anything. Okay, well, what's that all about? So you really have to tweak it out more with men. Women also, too, with men, when they're depressed, it tends to come out more often than not as an agitated state. Like someone will say, "Are you okay?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Mind your own business." But it's actually they're depressed.
Well, so it's really interesting. And I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but money obviously is always money and achievement is always a big part of as a man. Being
the provider.
Just like we keep score. And a lot of men keep score in where my accomplishments are, and how much money I'm making, and what have I accomplished, right? I think a lot of guys get to that point, especially once you start hitting a certain age, maybe 40 plus, you start to evaluate, maybe a little bit older, but especially as you start realizing, like, okay, and this is a fact, and I could tell you.
Okay.
That getting hired for jobs when you're a certain age, the jobs that are available are the jobs that are, lower than the qualifications. Then, it's hard to find those jobs that are commensurate with your experience level when you're younger. I mean, when you're older, right?
When you're older. Yeah.
Right. So then you really start to then it starts to get very frustrating. Like you start to feel like doors are closed to you in a lot of ways. So it's funny.
I'm working with some people that are in that type of a situation now, and it's like, they'll say, I'm applying for jobs and, that it's not falling into place or whatever. And I'll say, well, we hear all the time, think outside the box. Right. And what I say to people is, hey, why don't you make your own box?
That's what I've been doing.
That's what I've been doing too. It's like my wife said to me a few months ago, she said, she looked at me and she just chuckled and she's like, yeah, you could never work for anyone else again. I said, what did you mean by that? And she said, because you've got your own way of doing things. And with what you're doing now for work, you can do that. You can do what you want to do. But these other people, what I'm saying, is there, the jobs that you used to do, is there any way that that you could become a consultant in that field? Basically, is there any way to set it up so you're on your own terms?
You know what? I have a friend who's done it. He's much happier. I have myself, I think life is about acts, right? ACTS, not acts. But I think life is about acts where, you got to continue to reinvent yourself. And
now that I give you a lot of credit for it too, you're taking that course. You're taking that course in California, right?
Yeah, at 10 o'clock at night.
I think it's so commendable because it's like, you can go back to school at any age. There is no set age. I think I told you the story about, I had a guy going through the program at UMass Boston. His name is Ray.
We'll call him Ray.
We'll call him, well, I'm not telling you his last name anyway, but yeah, so Ray. So anyway, which Ray is okay with me talking about him anyway. So, but Ray, when he went through our program, was 88 years old. 88. And, if you ask him, Ray, why would you go through the addiction counseling program at 88 years old? And, he turned to me and he said, well, Willie, I'm from Roxbury. If I can help out a few of the brothers with their addiction, then so be it. I mean, I know a woman who last year graduated from UMaine Medical School at like 66. And it's like, why would you go back to school? Well, I'm from Aroostook County, which is that northernmost county up in Maine. And she said, yeah, if I could, I wanted to go to medical school so I could help out family and friends. And it's
crazy. I'm doing a movie. I'm producing a movie and it's going really well. And it's 3,000 miles away. I'm using technology as a way to do it. And it's like, I know nothing about it. Yeah. Suddenly, I dove into it. But the thing is so one of the guys I've met in this project, it's really fascinating. His name's Stan Morrison. Stan was the coach at USC, University of Southern California basketball for a long time. So Stan, if you talk to him, he gives you 116 on his email signature. So I was like, all right, this is a Bible passage, whatever, right? Yeah. So I talked to Stan. I'm like, what does that 116 mean? He goes, that's how old I want to live to, that I believe I'm going to. And I said, what do you mean by that? The guy's an Adonis. He's in his 70s. You should see him. Yeah. But Stan says, and he believes you live as long as you want to live. Yeah. Is that his theory? And it's funny because, and I thought about that, and I could see that in a lot of ways. If you're really hungry and you really feel purpose in your life, you're probably going to keep going, right? You're going to be,
Heroes is Mel Brooks.
There you go. Well,
I mean, how old is he? 94, and he still goes into his office every day to write comedy.
My father-in-law worked till 92. He had a ski and bike shop from 8 to 8 at night. It was the silent generation. Right. It wasn't, or not the greatest generation, but the silent generation, I think, where they just sucked it up and kept going. But what's interesting is, so my sister, her boyfriend is 56 and he's been battling with depression and kind of feeling a lack of purpose and stuff during the pandemic. Well, it turns out he had a brain bleed and it was kind of like,
well, that's one of the things I always say to people too, is one of the first questions I ask somebody when I'm doing an assessment is, when's the last time you had a complete physical with blood work done?
Right. Because it could be the chicken or the egg, right? Mm-hmm. Is he depressed because he's medically
compromised? Yeah.
I mean, or is he, medically compromised, which, like your body with stress and anxiety leaves yourself susceptible to other.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why with depression and stuff, I'm always, highly suggesting to people that they get into a walking program of 2 to 3 days a week for 20 minutes to a half an hour. Maybe the first week you just do it once. and the second week maybe just once. But you want to try to establish a behavioral pattern, and stuff. But exercise, nutrition, I mean, I think a lot of times people are too fast to get on antidepressants. It's like they haven't been doing any exercise, they eat like crap, but they're looking to a medication to be the answer. And
it's a tool, right? It's a tool. It's an aid. It's not a magic pill. Like, you still have to do the work behind it. Otherwise,
well, I mean, in this society, though, oftentimes, it's give me a pill, fix me now. That's the thinking.
Well,
we need to get away from that. Yeah.
Well, going back to that, talking more about, battling with the natural aspect rather than the pill, they're also talking about, Canadian doctors, Canadians, said that spending time in the national parks will actually help your mental health. And Canada is actually doing a program around mental health, through the parks. They call it PARX program. So it was the British Columbia Foundation in partnership with Parks Canada. And they're saying that growing evidence that indicates nature time can improve all kinds of physical and mental health conditions. And they say it reduces costs. They wanted to use it to improve the mental health, but also it reduces costs to the healthcare system. Sure. and become more environmental advocates. And there are similar programs in the U.S., but because we have a privatized healthcare system, they're based on location and provider. But nonetheless, they say walking in nature, even in urban nature. I know when my wife and I go to New York, right? Yeah. We love New York. We walk around the city. It is our favorite thing to do. It's great because you can walk and you don't even know how far you're walking. You can just walk and
it's set up better than Boston. With New York, all the streets go one way and all the avenues go another. It's a grid pattern, much easier to follow. Yeah, right.
In Boston, they were drawn on placemats. The city, or it's hard. It's hard to navigate. It's not a great walking city. Although you can walk from, like, when I worked at BU, I would walk over towards, like, I worked at Boston Medical Center, and I would walk from Mass Ave to by Hines over to like Fenway, right? It's a great walk. It's a great walk, but they're saying that they said the health benefits in nature are the biophilia hypothesis, which is that we've evolved in wild settings and we relied on environment for survival, and we have an innate need to connect with nature. Makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, we didn't just evolve and we were in dwellings. I mean,
right? Like doggies. Doggies have this need to be outside. Animals have a need to be outside.
Charlie will lay on our back porch for hours. He'd rather be on the back porch than laying around the house a lot of times,
Yeah, they just dig it. My dog, when it snows, she's the happiest thing in the world. She'll bury her whole head in the snow, the entire head. She's so happy with snow. And I mean, it's unbelievable. She's an Irish, she's from Ireland. She's a Wheaton Terrier. Loves it. Speaking of that, here's another one. Again, another snow sports increases mental health. And there's a survey that came out and said 38% of those who are pro-winter said that when they missed the snow sports during the pandemic, it really affected them. And in fact, 91% of those surveyed agreed that winter-themed getaways make for better bonding time with their family and more significant and as significant as basking in the sun on a beach. And they said 81% expressed they miss the snowy peaks in general more than they would miss summer excursions. And 94% of those surveyed revealed they developed a newfound appreciation of winter escapes throughout the COVID pandemic. And they said that again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a winter summer person too.
I'm not.
You spend all day outside in this. I mean, some of the largest caloric burns you can do are winter sports. Cross country skiing. Cross country skiing is like the number one sport for aerobic calorie burn. And
like Nordic track.
Yeah, like Nordic track, but on real snow. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
But what I'm, you're out there, you're snowboarding or you're skiing or you're cross country skiing, usually with other people, and you're sucking in cold air and stuff, which means that your body has to work even more because your body has to heat up the air once it gets into your lungs, and then you come in and you bond when you get back to the chalet, and stuff. You do the hot tub, you kick back. I mean, it's really, I mean, the summer, I gain weight in the summer more than I do in the winter.
Is that right?
Yeah. The summer, I'm more apt to just want to lay around in the sun and barbecue. The wintertime, I go for longer walks with Charlie. I love being out, winter, I just bundle up and stuff and go romping and stomping. And I lose more weight in the winter than the summer.
No, I'm much more of a summer guy, warm weather. I'm much happier. Just reality, but everybody's different. I'm living in a good place for it in New England too. They also said, and this is interesting because I was thinking, I don't get colds that much, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And it says, and I'm always outside during the winter. And they say science indicates that cold weather exercise will really help your body pump your blood harder and eliminate bacteria from your airways and lungs.
Right.
This comes from Franciscan Health, and they said that it decreases your risk of getting colds or the flu.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you stop and think about it, warm air is more, how do I want to say it, is more open to bacteria, promulgating and stuff as opposed to cold air. Bacteria and viruses don't like cold air. They don't and stuff. So it makes sense. It makes sense that colder air.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the year or end of this winter, sort of, kind of. So
we have no idea.
It could be June. Yeah. All right. So, you've been updated about the news, but there's so much news out there. There's so much more, but I thought, it'd be helpful to talk about some of the things out there that, rather than pointing out all the negative, which we tend to do about like, okay, yeah, I know there are people overdosing, there's this and that, which, is a fact, but, let's try to take some proactive steps. And, if there's really good content out there or good information, I think it's important that we throw it out there. Having said, go ahead.
You start. I said you start.
I start.
What's your good news? Yeah.
Oh no, but my question to you, sir, is, out right now, what are some of the things that you're seeing in your practice right now? What are some of the, the interesting, kind of what are some of the trends out there that are going on in your practice right now from the world of mental health?
I mean, with one of them I mentioned earlier is the fact that people, that are in their, 40s and 50s, maybe they were laid off during the start of the pandemic and stuff. Some of them are going back, but I'm getting a lot of people, that are doing this self-reflection going, I really don't want to go back because I'm realizing that my whole life was what I did for work and I wasn't spending enough time for self-care or with my family. So, this is where we're talking about, creating their own box. Rather than thinking outside, what can I do where I can be happy and content? And that you had mentioned earlier about the money issue, about, wanting more and more money and trying to keep up with the people around you. I mean, I see that on the North Shore all the time, the white picket fence,
but it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's everywhere that there's money.
Right.
And money to be made. If I have one electric car, well, two would be better.
I'll tell you my own story. I could see in my own story. I really had to check myself, and it was in December. I had to check myself. I have this film project, and it's going, like I said, it's going really well. Mm-hmm. But I have two other partners, and they don't share the same drive as me. They just don't. They're for whatever reason, one's 76 years old. He's in a different place in his life. My other guy's 37, and he's a freelance guy doing video. And so he does this, but he does it, but we're not paying him. He's not being paid, right? We're all doing this kind of grassroots until we get a distributor for the project. And so what's really interesting about it is I found myself, I hit the wall in December. Now, I did it under a guise of I thought I took too much medicine. Like I thought I took a thyroid medication or something. And really, I had a panic attack. I mean, I really had a panic attack. I was in California. I panicked. There were external factors with my project. I really kind of I went to the hospital because, my heart was racing and I kind of was sweating, and it was just like I hit the wall, right? There were there were things that were happening to me that I could have controlled in my own world, but I didn't. So I let those external factors affect me. And so I went to the hospital, the emergency room. They did my EKG. They did everything. I was fine. I went back. Came back east, and I said, what am I trying to prove, right? Who am I trying to prove anything to? I have nothing to prove. I'm doing this project. I'm going to have fun with it, right? Yeah. I'm at a place now where it's like I don't have a deadline on myself. I have no, I'm not, it's kind of like you start to get older. The dust starts to settle a little bit. Yeah. And, it's like so much of your operating system as a young person is, I got to make money. I got to achieve success. I got to do this. Yeah. And really, it's almost like I'm finding it's more age appropriate in a sense to kind of stop and smell the roses a little bit. Yeah. And take a look back at stuff. So I really try to be mindful of the fact hey, you know what? Let's enjoy the process and have fun with it, and not turn people off as partners and things like that. Just kind of let things take their course. And that really helped me a lot. And so now my outlook is more let's have fun with it. Let's see where it goes. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Oh, well. Right. Because I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. And if I am trying to prove something, it shouldn't be for anybody else. It should be for myself to say, hey, I want to see what I am capable of, not because I'm looking for other people's approval. So that's kind of my. Well, I was talking to my youngest son, who's a school teacher, and I was talking to him about this concept that we have for doing a dramedy and stuff. And he said, I just want you to know that, no matter if you get that off the ground or not, that that you're okay just the way you are, Dad. You've helped a lot of people over the years, and yes. So you should be proud of that. And it just sort of took me back, that he would say that, but I wasn't surprised. Right. So it's lose the chip on your shoulder, right? If you have a chip on your shoulder, you can lose it. I've had to lose it, right? I've had to work on losing the chip on my shoulder. And why am I doing this? Why am I getting involved with the film? What am I trying to do? What am I? And it's like creating, like you said, creating a new box for myself. But you'll never be happy if you continue to be on the wheel, on a hamster wheel, right?
Right.
It's kind of my thing. So that's my 2 cents. So that's our show for the week. Any closing thoughts, sir?
Yeah, no, just everybody, take a big deep breath and really enjoy the people in your life. Really, life is really good. Really take the time to see them, to see them as they are without thinking about, what you're thinking about. Because see them as they are. Just take them in and go for a nice long walk.
And go for a nice long walk and go get a hot dog. No, I'm kidding. But go get chicken. Go get a chicken parm sandwich. Have a sandwich. Anyway, all right. That's our show for the week. Willie, give your website, and if people want to
It's Willie with the Y. Willie, it's Willie with the Y. You probably saw my Facebook on that one.
A lot of hate. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate if you use an IE. You're dead to him if you use an I and an E.
No, you can use it if you want. I just won't. I won't respond to you because that's not my name. But anyway, yeah, it's Willie Drinkwater, all one word.com. That's
his real name too.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I think I told you the story. Every Friday at WBCN, Charles would do a shout out to everyone on the Big Mattress crew and stuff. And, he'd say all of our names. And there'd always be 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 people that would phone in the station and say, okay, what's his real name? It can't be Willie Drinkwater. There's no way his name is Willie Drink. And the fact of the matter was Billy West. Well, Billy West isn't his real last name. His real last name is Werstein.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
But no one would question him, but they'd question my name, Drinkwater,
Billy West makes a lot of money, right? Anyway, speaking of money, all right. And Drinkwater, the fact that you went to addiction counseling is tremendous, by the way.
I know. Yeah.
Mental health, drink water. Don't drink alcohol, drink water.
A final note, if there are any fans out there of any fans of Futurama, they just announced that they're putting together 20 episodes that'll come out in 2023 with Billy West and with Katie Seagal. The person that originally did Bender's voice isn't going to be back, but Billy can do that voice anyway. Anyway, yeah.
All right. Give Sam's a number. All right, goodbye. Goodbye to you. That's our show for the week. Thanks to Mike Weber. Thanks to Fanny. Fanny is helping out there at FCA Television back in Mission Control in Foxborough. Have a great week, everybody.
Yeah.